Recently got married, who's kind of had a transformation. He went down to Peru or somewhere and he did ayahuasca and he went on a spiritual journey. He's a changed man. He's born again.
And I'm saved. I am healed.
Hey, fair play to the guy. Fair play to the guy. And I'll tell you what, when you do see clips of him online, he does look healthier. He does look less puffy. And you do see clips of him out there training. So the man's getting ready for something. And a lot of people, because obviously I have a podcast and we'll be back on Monday, by the way, me and Felder, so tune in for that. A lot of people are like, yeah, McGregor's done. Listen, a lot can change. The man's still only, I think he's 37 years old, okay? So he's not like he's that old yet. Yeah, he's at the tail end of his career. Even though, like Mike Tyson, he said he wants to do this for the rest of his life. He's at the tail end of his career. But 3 years, 4 years away, right? A lot can change if you lock in, if you get disciplined, if you get rid of all the bad habits, if you abandon all the yes men, if you get rid of all the distractions and you get in the gym, it's not unthinkable to think that Conor McGregor could get just somewhere near the form that he had when he made his rise.
I think, Dana White said it best, back then. Not only was I burning some premium jet fuel, but I was too much man for Conor, too big, what is he gonna do, outstrike me? I think I would have been like a bad style from him. They probably wanted easier fights from him at that time. Someone where he could get his air beneath his sails, because it wasn't going to be me. And I still think to this day, Conor knows it. And he don't like that fight. She'll talk about everybody else but me, because he knows I'll snipe his ass quick. That little lucky left shit he does ain't going to work with me, a premium striker, brother. I'm going to see that shit a mile away and slap him in the face. So I don't think versus Brandon ever would have been good. I'm gonna beat the fucking dog shit out of him, straight up stand-up style.
Are you surprised?
None of that grappling. I'm just gonna get in your face, knee your ribs, elbow your fucking face. It's gonna be a fight.
Opponent for Conor McGregor at the proposed White House event has not been announced, and there's still no official confirmation that he'll even compete. Despite that, the speculation hasn't slowed down. Some fans and analysts argue that an event of that scale would feel incomplete without him, while others believe it could succeed regardless of his involvement. One way or another, McGregor remains at the center of the conversation.
Remember who it was, where you talked about the Chandler-Conor McGregor fight, and you're like, that's old news. Chandler comes out and says he's going to keep optimism about it. You, to be completely transparent at this point, as much as you want to be at least, how empty slate is that card? Or do you already have in your head what you're hoping to happen, and then you just kind of got to make it happen? Like where are you in the development of the card? Because I know that's a massive ordeal for all parties.
So my entire focus right now is on the launch this weekend. I got boxing on Friday, the UFC on Saturday. Sunday, I'm watching the Patriots go to the Super Bowl.
Hell yeah.
And then Monday, we're all in on the White House fight. We don't have anything laid out. Nothing. It'll all start Monday.
Okay. All right.
And no disrespect to Chandler. We love Chandler. Chandler's one of the... You don't have enough time in your show for me to talk to you about how awesome Chandler is. And you know how I feel about Conor and everything that he's done for the sport and this company. But yeah, that's not the fight we're going.
Dana White views the proposed White House event as something that could stand on its own as a historic moment for the UFC. When he referenced the promotion's past milestone cards, like UFC 200, his point was that even after staging events of that magnitude, this one carries a unique weight because of the venue and what it symbolizes. At the same time, he made it clear the plan is still in development. With the level of coordination and security such a location would require, nothing has been finalized.
Well, we're going to figure that all out this week. But when you look at, this is like a one-of-one event. It's something that will never happen again. And we building this card, we have this video rendering of what it looks like. We literally have the trees that are in the South Lawn. We'll know exactly where the sun is until it sets. So all the logistics are done. And now it's time we believe that this is going to be the most watched UFC event ever.
I mean, you've had UFC 200, 300, 100, the Sphere. To say that this card is going to top all of those, be bigger, more important, those are some big words right there. Do you believe this could be the type of event that almost kickstarts, maybe similar to what happened coming out of COVID, that maybe kickstarts a new era of fandom for this sport?
Yeah, it's going to introduce a lot.
Dana White also spoke about what an event like this could represent for the athletes involved. He pointed out that many fighters have never even stepped inside the White House, much less had the chance to compete there. That alone, he suggested, shifts how competitors might view the opportunity. In his eyes, an occasion of that magnitude becomes more than just another bout. It turns into a defining chapter in a fighter's career. Staging a UFC event in a setting with that kind of symbolism would draw attention beyond the usual fan base and elevate the moment into something culturally significant.
That have never seen it before. And when you talk about like me, my executive team, the staff that works here, the media that covers us, and the fighters, this is going to be the most unique, amazing, night of our entire careers. So, the fighters are walking from the Oval Office, and I bet a lot of the people that cover the sport and are fans of the sport have probably never even been to the White House before, and obviously the fighters. So this is a really special one-of-one night. And when we go to do something, I like to deliver, and I like to deliver big. So we are, it's going to be special. And now this
exciting
week,
times.
yeah, actually, fly in from, he lives in Texas, so he's coming in, and going to have him here for a few days, and we're going to start hammering.
Dana White didn't directly address Conor McGregor in detail, but other analysts certainly did. Chael Sonnen discussed McGregor's situation and made it clear that this doesn't look like a near-finalized return. Instead, he described a scenario filled with moving parts, multiple storylines unfolding at once, each dependent on something else falling into place first. According to Sonnen, nothing appears concrete right now. It's not the usual build-up to a comeback fight. It feels far more complicated. He emphasized that trying to forecast what happens next is risky, outlining the various possibilities to show just how uncertain the entire picture remains.
Predicting that for you, when we do talk about the White House, and we've got every level of crazy at play here. We've got Conor McGregor returning. We've got Conor McGregor returning for a title fight. We've got Conor McGregor returning in a weight class that doesn't yet exist. We've got Conor McGregor returning. The only problem is he needs a call from Ari Emanuel. We got Conor McGregor returning. The only problem is Conor McGregor is not under contract with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Like, everything about this has gotten weird. We got John Jones versus Piera. Biggest fight in the history of humanity. John Jones needs a hip replacement. John Jones is going to play flag football as opposed to fight at the White House. Like, we're in this spot. We're in like this Wild West in terms of predictions. And I do think that Ilia Topuria versus Islam is the biggest fight that we could make. For the most part, there's a broad stroke on that, right? Jones versus Pierre. If we're just having fun, fights that we could make. Jones versus Aspinall, Pierre versus Aspinall. Like if we've got...
Chael Sonnen explained that people often assume fighters have inside information, but that's not always true, admitting even he has made that mistake before. He said that just because Conor McGregor has been linked to Michael Chandler doesn't mean either man knows what's actually happening, as fighters frequently learn about their own potential bouts through media reports just like fans do. Which shows the McGregor situation is far less certain than many believe.
But in the scope of being realistic, I do not think that you're going to get Islam versus Ilia at 155. And more importantly, if Ilia and Islam do fight, when that day comes, I think it should be at 170. Because a big piece of the story is champ status. And the only way you preserve that opportunity is for Ilia to go up. Islam also came out early on, before he had fought with Jack, captured the 170-pound title. And he said, I'm going to do both. I'm going to grab the belt at 70. I'm going to come right back to 55. I'm going to fight at both. As soon as he made 170 and he felt what that was like to have the same experience without the torture of pulling off those extra 15 pounds, he came out and said, no, I'm never going back. I believe him. That sounds right. But Chandler appeared to not know. He appears to be very open. And one mistake that I have made a number of times in the sport is to think that the athletes know, but they're keeping a secret. Well, Chandler knows what's going on. Chandler knows whether he's fighting Conor. But Chandler and Conor are going to preserve this and reveal it to the media when they're ready. Time after time, that just turns out to not be the case. The guy's just genuine.
Ariel Helwani also cast doubt on the Conor McGregor and UFC White House event scenario, comparing it to 2020 when McGregor threatened retirement over unfavorable terms after being benched without a live audience. Helwani's point was that McGregor historically won't fight unless the deal benefits him, especially financially, and since is the sport's biggest pay-per-view draw. A White House card without a traditional PPV structure changes the equation entirely, while the UFC could argue brand exposure. McGregor has typically prioritized PPV points and revenue, making the situation far from straightforward.
Really interesting with Conor McGregor in the UFC. It's about to get really interesting, and it's starting to feel like pandemic 2020 vibes. And what I mean by that is, do you remember there was a time, I remember Amanda Nunes fought Felicia Spencer, and I remember he was going off on Twitter. He was talking about, F this, I'm going to retire, all this stuff. And I remember he called me, and I wrote a whole article for ESPN.com. He retired in 2020 because they wouldn't give him a fight. And they wouldn't give him a fight until they could have some kind of attendance. And that attendance came 2021 in Abu Dhabi, January of 2021 against Dustin Poirier, if you remember. They didn't want to have him at the Apex in front of no one. And so I remind you, when that White House card comes around, June 14th, there will be no pay-per-view, there will be no gate, and what I'm hearing is there's going to be no sponsors as well. So it's going to be it's going to be gigantic as far as brand awareness and whatnot, but as far as sponsors on the cage, it's not going to be like that because White House and you know, it gets a little tricky.
Ariel Helwani emphasized leverage as the key factor, explaining that Conor McGregor operates from a completely different position than most fighters because of the attention and revenue he generates. That star power allows him to demand unique terms, especially if the UFC moves away from a traditional pay-per-view structure. And Helwani suggested that if the financial model no longer benefits McGregor the way it once did, there's a real possibility he could push back or even decline altogether, while also noting that the UFC, with its evolving business model, may not rely on McGregor as heavily as it once did.
All of this fighter pay stuff that I care about, and that's Conor McGregor. Well, there's two people. There's Dana White and there's Conor McGregor. And the reason I care about Conor McGregor's thoughts on this is because he's the only one with leverage. When he talks about on a Roblox stream, my contract is null and void, he's the only one with the ability to go, no, you actually do need to pay me a different amount because I'm the only one who actually sells pay-per-views. Pay-per-views were down bad last year. I can't imagine there were many champions who were making a ton of money by selling pay-per-views. The UFC obviously wasn't making a ton of money by selling pay-per-views, and has pivoted away from that model. And so there's nobody out there who's really going to be too hard done if all of a sudden the UFC is like, we're moving away from pay-per-view. There's going to be some extra money, and not ask about it ever again, right? Volk was on talking to you, and he kind of didn't know what's going on, but is Volk really going to be the one to rock the boat and do it? There's only one person who stands to benefit in a major way from pay-per-views in 2026 or previously in 2025, and
White House side, Ariel Helwani suggested there's a real possibility that Conor McGregor may not even appear on the card, not because fans wouldn't want it, but because the financial terms might not meet his expectations. If the UFC presents a number that doesn't align with what McGregor believes is worth, he could simply walk away, showing that for him, it's never just about being placed on an event, but about the business structure behind it.
Out and says, I need to renegotiate my deal because this is now null and void. That's the only one that's going to have any waves, ripples, anything. There is a realistic scenario where upcoming, when it comes to the White House, Conor McGregor is the one that says no, right? We're acting like it's just going to be the Dana White's going to be like, do I trust Conor McGregor? What if they come to Conor McGregor with a number that's not sufficiently offset?
Oh, yeah.
Because this pay-per-view is not in place anymore, and he says, take a hike. I'm not fighting for that. I never fought for that. I stand to make so much more money than that, and you're trying to... And we're also in a scenario where the UFC might not need Conor McGregor as much as they used to, which is an even more fascinating thing, right? Because pay-per-view doesn't exist, do you necessarily need somebody like Conor McGregor as much as you...
Bisping explained that the renewed talk of Jorge Masvidal versus Conor McGregor picked up once Michael Chandler was no longer a clear option and Dana White had already cooled certain ideas, making Jorge a quick and logical choice. Bisping argued that if McGregor appears on a White House card, it must be against a massive, marketable name with history and big fight presence. And Masvidal fits that from both a stylistic and promotional standpoint, especially for an event that may lean more toward spectacle than rankings. Meanwhile, Chandler said his rivalry with McGregor from The Ultimate Fighter was never truly settled and believes McGregor is refocused and motivated to return on the biggest stage possible, potentially against him. Yet as of now, no opponent is confirmed, nothing is signed. And while McGregor is reportedly training hard, the entire situation remains speculation until the UFC makes it official.